Hi everyone, I'm going to be talking about resiliency theory. The main theorist behind this model was Norman Garmazzi. He was a clinical psychologist and researcher of schizophrenia. He studied how adversity in life affects mental illness, and first published research on resiliency in 1973, and then a year later, created tools to look at the systems that support the development of an individual's resilience. So what is resiliency theory? Resiliency, especially as it is defined for this model, is the ability to bounce back from hardship and setbacks, and then to withstand that hardship. Like it says in the second section here, it's more than responding to difficult situations. It's realizing more about yourself and your own capabilities, self-regulating behaviors, and knowing how to incorporate social support networks in your own life. The resiliency model really adopts a lot of other theories and concepts into the way it's used. This diagram is a really good example of this. It takes this concept of homeostasis, or where you are at a normal time, and then you have an event that happens, and that causes a disruption or a change in your life, usually negative. And then you have a choice here in this reintegration part, and that's really, where is my life going to go from this point? And the lowest choice, I guess, is just dysfunctional reintegration. This is where, after everything's all said and done, life is much worse than it was, and that's really the worst place to be at the end of especially something hard. Reintegration with loss, this is where you've come out of the situation and the mindset is just that I'm not going to be like I used to be. And especially when it comes to resiliency, this is, again, it's not very good. It just doesn't allow for very much strength from a place where that's where someone's coming from. Third is reintegration back to homeostasis, and this one is pretty good. It allows the person to be back where they used to be and just allowing themselves to move forward from a place that's familiar. But what's best is the resilient reintegration, and that's allowing the person to see, after it's all said and done, that, you know, I'm better for all of this that's happened, even though it's been hard. And that allows for a lot of strength and allows for them to really have grown quite a bit from that situation. Another really good visual representation of the resiliency model is here, where it basically shows that resiliency comes down to trying to build upon someone's sense of meaningfulness, self-reliance, perseverance, and equanimity. And for those of you like me that didn't know what equanimity was, it's basically a sense of mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations. So these things are all balanced out through a lifestyle and environment that supports high persistence, high cooperativeness, high self-directedness, and low harm avoidance. Some underlying concepts behind the resiliency model are protective factors and risk factors. Protective factors are people, places, and things that create a sense of security, while risk factors are events or things that increase stress. And this third point is really important. Especially, it mentions children, but especially, well, just anyone that is dealing with any kind of difficulty or hardship. The protective factors are what allow that person to feel more safe and just have a sense of belonging and a little bit more normalcy about the situation, while the risk factors are that sense of stress and change. And for anyone, that sense of security is what allows for that person to get through the difficulties that are coming from that stress and that risk factor. Another concept is the 7 constructs of resiliency. And these 7 things, insight, independence, relationship, initiative, creativity, humor, and morality, basically your value system, is these things, when built upon, that helps an individual cope with and face hardship. And this really goes back to the previous slide where it talked about the protective factors versus the risk factors that are involved when somebody's facing hardship. Some models that are used, especially in a therapeutic application, are the protective model. And this is, the concept here is basically in the name, where really helping the person feel as confident and protected as possible while still allowing for personal development to happen. Second is the compensatory model, and the main focus of this one is to counteract the negative effects of a risk factor by using principles of protection. And third is a challenge model, and this one focuses on, I think, a really powerful concept of introducing challenge in order to increase a person's belief in their own ability to do and to become. A major factor behind the resiliency model is building an individual's personal sense of resilience. This involves 4 different patterns. First is dispositional, or the person's self-perception or the way they see themselves. Second is relational, or their feelings of belonging and importance to society, or even to a relationship. Third is situational, or their ability to react constructively in a stressful situation. And fourth is a philosophical pattern, or their view on the world and their own purpose. This really goes back to resiliency being our own capacity to navigate and negotiate our resources to do well, really, whether that be social, personal, or spiritual resources. And the outcomes that are sought for through this model is increasing the person's sense of self-worth, self-reliance, autonomy, increasing their own personal development and developing their own goals, individuals' ability to analyze a situation and then take appropriate action, and then if they can, and this is something that was brought up in one of the lesson for this for the class, but I really thought it's important and wanted to highlight it, is really if someone has a sense of resilience, we can increase it. And if they don't have much of that internal sense of resilience, then it should be our responsibility to try and help them to improve upon that and really see that they have that potential. Some limitations that might be found within this model, and from some things that I've found, is just that a lot of the time this takes quite a bit of trust between the therapist and the person going through the therapy, and really just being able to tailor that kind of program that benefits the population that they're involved in, and really focusing on that person's well-being and making sure that whatever you're doing is best for them and what's going to be of the most benefit can sometimes be a little bit more of a challenge, because it's going to take some more time than normal sometimes to actually build that relationship. An activity that we would like for you to try is, there's a video. It's a little long, but Michael Ungar, he gave a speech about the resiliency model, and it's really good, and he talks quite a bit about some activities that were done and just how that impacted the at-risk youth that were involved in that program. And then there's this satisfaction with life scale, and the 2 links, the first one being the actual survey that you can take, and the second one being, once you've taken it and you see how you score, it kind of shows you the different places in your own life where you might be able to implement some of these principles that we've talked about from resiliency. And then here are some references where there's some studies and different things that have been done that you can check out as well if you're interested. But thank you very much.